So, I know I promised you a list of my favorite episodes from each season, but after a long, sad series of events that ended with me crying in the shower for a few hours, I decided to just move on to reviewing random episodes. If you do want to know my favorites for each season, then please click the links below to check them out on my DeviantArt page. Anyway, what episode am I going to be reviewing first? Oh, I bet it'll be something good like Hurricane Fluttershy or Flight to the Finish or... Okay, so based on that, you can guess that I don't really care for this episode, but I don't have any seething hatred for it like some others do. I do feel it does some things right, but I cannot explain how much of a disappointment this was. I mean, not only was this an episode focusing on my favorite of the main six, and not only was it written by the same person who did two of my favorite episodes, not just of season 3, but the entire show, but it was coming right after 3 great episodes. Rarity Takes Manhattan and Pinky Apple Pie were two of my favorites of the season, and Bats is the biggest surprise of the entire show. In fact, this episode really is the opposite of Bats, isn't it? With Bats, I looked at the title, I looked at the premise, I looked at the writer, and I looked at who would be the main focus, and I went, But it actually turned out to be pretty good. I looked at the title, premise, writer, and main focus of Rainbow Falls, and I went, oh! And it sucked. I guess this just goes to show that life hates you and everything you love is a lie. But anyway, I wasted enough of your time. Let's talk about it and find out how it could have been very easily fixed. Now for these reviews, I will be judging the episodes in 3 categories. Writing, where I look at stuff like story and characters. Production, where I look at stuff like animation, directing, music, and voice acting. And finally, enjoyment, where I look at stuff like humor, action, or stuff that I just find interesting. So let's start off with the writing. I won't really be going over the plot for these older episodes, since I'm sure most of you have seen them and this will already be long enough. The entire episode literally falls apart before the theme song even starts. First things first. I bet you're tired of hearing this, but why, of all the Pegasi in Ponyville, do you choose these two? Fluttershy, who not only has massive stage fright, but can barely break a 2 on the rating scale, and Bulk Biceps, who apparently can't fly without getting winded.
Sorry we couldn't fly with you on the aerial relay, but the air sprinters needed us too.
Too bad we can only compete in one event. But rules are rules.
Really? All those Pegasi from Hurricane Fluttershy, and you can't find 2? Alright, I'm willing to buy this, but you've pretty much used up all my suspension of disbelief, so please, don't do anything else that might be considered questionable. Wait a minute! Since when does Bulk Biceps have trouble flying? He's a freaking Wonderbolt cadet! Okay, I've come to accept his name as Bulk Biceps, even though that's stupid, but this, I just can't believe. This episode clearly wants to be like a sequel to Wonderbolt's Academy, and yet it goes against something that was clearly established in that episode. No headcanon can excuse this. It literally just goes against all logic, all continuity, all... You know what? Let's just forget it and move on to the next thing. Why is he an idiot?
Speed for Rainbow Dash!
Rainbow Dash actually starts with an R.
Never mind!
Yes, he didn't have much of an established personality besides just being strong. You could have made him anything besides a bad flyer, and it would have worked. And you go for moron? Yeah, way to go against a stereotype show that's loved for going against stereotypes. Why don't we just rename the show My Little Pony? Strong guys are dumb, blonde girls are bitches, and black people like fried chicken. Okay, forget it. Let's just move past the opening and on to my next problem. The exposition dumps.
That's Rainbow Dash! She's an awesome flyer!
I heard that she's flying the last third of the relay, which means every pony else is gonna have to be way ahead to beat her.
Oh, the Wonderbolts!
I hear they're flying for Cloudsdale. Then Cloudsdale will definitely qualify. They're the best flyers ever.
Okay, I'll be straight. This isn't my least favorite episode of the show, but it is the only one where I felt like I was being treated like a 5-year-old. We knew that Rainbow was an awesome flyer. We would know that Rainbow was going to be 3rd in the race when you show us later, and you don't need background ponies telling us this information. Hey, isn't that Twilight Sparkle? Why, yes it is. I heard she started out as a unicorn that made friends with 5 other ponies and then found the elements of harmony to defeat Nightmare Moon. The elements, of course, are honesty, loyalty, kindness, laughter. Anyway, on to my next complaint. The Wonderbolts. Or, more specifically, Spitfire. Now, Fleetfoot I'm willing to bias malicious as she never even had a speaking role before, but Spitfire was never this horrible. Yeah, she was a bit stern in Wonderbolt's Academy, but never enough to betray one of her friends or steal someone else's team member. But those complaints are nothing compared to my biggest problem, the main 6, or at least most of them. All of them are flanderized. I guess Twilight was okay, but she came across as too perfect. Pinkie, the party pony, is loud and abrasive. Fluttershy is so nice that she actually wants to make sure her teammate is ready to give the horseshoe before she takes it. Rarity is concerned about nothing except for fashion, and yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Now, I know nothing about fashion, but even I know that those are just tablecloths that you threw some glitter and jewels on. But the worst has to be Applejack. If this was the only episode you watched, you would assume the only things you cared about was apples. Apples will give you energy to win the race. I need to find some way to launch these fritters into the air. These apple fritters will cure anything that ails you. Apples are Celestia's greatest gift to all of Equestria, and you should worship these amazing fruits and all its seedlings. I should know. I'm Apple Jesus. Besides all that, the episode is mostly just predictable. So is there anything I like? Of course. One thing is Rainbow. Some say she never would have given up on her friends, but with how freaking pathetic Fluttershy and Biceps were, I'm willing to buy it. I also really like Soren. He never made much of an impression on me before this episode, but here he seemed like a little puppy who you just wanted to hug.
You sure have nice friends. No pony's been by to visit me.
Oh, you are so freaking precious. Pinkie Pie's a cheerleader. Even if she does do a lot of screaming, that's probably the smartest decision ever made on this whole show. And the moral was pretty good. About what I was expecting. And I think there was one more thing. What was it? What was that other thing that I really liked?
We just wanted to let you know that we're so sorry you're hurt, but you shouldn't worry a bit about not being able to be in the tryouts. We'll be alright. We even have a replacement.
Derpy! Derpy, 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 derpy. It's Derpy! Man, that is awesome. I can't even remember why I was angry.
Cross our hearts!
Oh yeah. Well, despite that, I got a huge glee moment when I saw her the first time, and now let's see how the episode works from a production value point of view. This episode is gorgeous. The design of Rainbow Falls, the amount of stuff going on in the background, the colors, the designs of extras, everything was beautiful. Shame that all that effort on the animation went to an episode like this. Now, some complain that it uses the same background music from Wonderbolt's Academy, but since this episode is acting like a sequel to that one, I don't mind that much. What I do mind is the piss poor pacing. Half the episode is way too fast and the other half is way too slow, and most of the slow parts are focused on the humor, thus killing the jokes. Last, we'll talk about the voice acting.
I can't deny it. I love to win. But if I ever gotta choose between winning and being loyal to my friends, I'm always gonna choose my friends. Cause as much as I love winning, I love them way more.
I don't know if that was the fault of Belle or the directors, but it came off so sarcastic and self-indulgent, like she's saying, I'm awesome, but if I have to choose between winning and my friends, I will always pick my friends because I'm awesome. Other than that, most of the voice acting was fine, I guess, although Andrea Libman did create an adorable list for Fleetfoot. So next, enjoyment. This episode was boring. The jokes fell flat most of the time due to either bad direction or just being terrible ideas. The plot was predictable and, like I said before, the pacing is absolutely terrible. It did have a few laughs and I was actually in suspense on whether Rainbow would make it in time at the end, but for the most part this episode was just dull. Not much else to say. So how could this episode have been fixed? Well, directing wise it's just fixing up the pacing and telling your actors to not say the moral in a sarcastic tone. And as for the writing, it's really easy. All you had to do was change 3 things. First, get rid of or downplay most of the main 6. Second, replace Fluttershy and Bulk Biceps with new characters. Now here's the thing. They can be the best flyers in Ponyville, except Rainbow of course, but one is lazy and the other is arrogant. They all want to win, but one of them just doesn't feel like practicing and the other wants to be the leader. This will be the reason Rainbow has such a hard time choosing between the two instead of just going with the obvious choice. And 3. Replace the Wonderbolts, or make it so Spitfire doesn't know that Soren was okay and Rainbow was conflicted about which team to be on. It may have a few contrivances, I'll admit, but at least she won't be out of character. And that's it. Sure, the plot will still be predictable and the humor will need tweaking, but this will fix most of the problems the episode had. So for my final ratings, I give the writing a 3, production a 5, and enjoyment a 4. I don't know if Corey Powell was stressed because she had to write a key episode and set up for the Equestria Games, or if she just wanted to get back at Polsky for making a mediocre episode that had to be tied to her great one. But to be fair, she doesn't deserve all the blame. I mean, Megan McCarthy was the story editor. Couldn't she have just said, yeah, Corey, can we talk for a minute about how your script is literally the worst thing ever? Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.